Hello, I'm Jack from jackstransmissions.com. Thanks for watching us tonight. We're glad to have you with us. Today we're going to talk about proper clutch adjustment. Now, this seems to be a problem that plagues a lot of people, especially those that are running a heavier pressure plate where they need to adjust the master rod under the dash for more clutch travel. You know, they have a dragging clutch, tranny Shosnachi, you know, everything's caught in a friction zone. It's difficult to deal with. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you the correct way to adjust this for the most throw-out bearing travel that you can get, and we'll go from there. So the first thing that we need to look at here is I have a clutch pedal assembly out of a 2G all-wheel drive DSM here, and we're looking at this. Right here would be the firewall. Over here is the outside of the car in the engine compartment, and over towards me here is the inside of the car. Now, what this consists of is you have the master cylinder here, master cylinder reservoir here, and on the inside of the car you have the master cylinder adjustment rod in here, along with the clutch pedal assembly. On the outside of the car you have the line running through the engine compartment into the slave cylinder, which moves the throw-out bearing release fork. Now, the problem that we're having here is a lot of people are trying to adjust this rod improperly. They're just guessing where it needs to be without knowing exactly what's going on. So the way the system works is this slave cylinder is self-adjusting. As things wear over time, what happens is this, as the disc wears, we wear down the flywheel, pressure plate, things will slowly start to move in this direction. And what will happen is the slave will adjust itself out, so it'll always feel the same to the driver. No matter how worn out your clutch is, it'll always feel the same way. So the farther out it goes, the slave cylinder will be right there to accommodate that wear. Now the way that works is on the inside of the master cylinder, there is a bleeder valve that goes to the reservoir. And that bleeder valve allows fluid to go in and out of the system depending on where the piston in the slave cylinder needs to be. So if I push this in and hold it there, the fluid is pushed back into the reservoir and stays there unless we need to move it out to this position right here. It will just adjust itself to that point. So the more we move it out, fluid will come out of here into the system to accommodate that position. If we go in with it, fluid is pushed back into the reservoir. Now this is when things get tricky when doing the adjustment, because if you adjust this rod out too far, what's going to happen is you're going to basically close or block off that bleeder valve in the master cylinder. So this will no longer be self-adjusting. It's going to sit right where it is, and it'll only move when you push the pedal down, but it will not be able to self-adjust. And over time, like if you have it out too far and that bleeder valve is closed, what will happen is over time the clutch will start to slip because it will not be able to adjust itself in a neutral position when your foot is off the pedal. So what we need to do is we need to find the point where we can adjust this rod out far enough where it gets to the point where it's just about ready to close off that bleeder valve. And what that does is when we move it out that far and we push the clutch pedal in, we're limiting the amount of play at the top of the pedal travel. If we get it up as close as we can to that valve, we'll be able to, when we make a full push of the pedal assembly, we're going to make sure that we have as much fluid as we possibly can push through the master cylinder and into the little piston here in your slave cylinder. So the fluid transfer is the big deal here. We want as much fluid as we can to go to the slave to really give that pressure plate enough movement to let go of the disc so you don't have a dragging clutch, or a clutch that feels like it's in the friction zone at high RPM. And running a car in the friction zone all the time like that will wear down synchro rings in a hurry, the tranny will feel notchy, the clutch won't live as long. There's a lot of bad things that can happen, so proper clutch adjustment is very important. One thing that we tell people to do as a test to make sure the clutch isn't dragging is to have their car on a flat surface somewhere, somewhere where you have plenty of space in front of you to make sure nobody else is around. Have the e-brake off, With the car running, put it in first gear, hold the clutch to the floor with the car in first gear and rev the engine up. If you can rev it up to about 7,000, 7,500 RPM without the car creeping forward, your clutch isn't dragging. If the car does creep forward, what's happening is you're not getting enough travel here at the slave cylinder. That's one possibility. Another possibility is it could be a damaged clutch disc, improper step height on the flywheel. It could be any number of things. But in most cases, the clutch pedal assembly just needs to be adjusted properly for the most fluid transfer, and you'll be okay. Now, the first thing we do to really get the most throw out of this that we can on a heavier pressure plate is, unfortunately, it's not on this unit, but when you look under the dash in your car, you're going to have a stop here. When the pedal comes all the way up, there's going to be a switch and a stop at the top of the clutch pedal assembly. And what you want to do is, there's a little locking nut on it. You want to loosen the locking nut and back that out to the point where the stop is up to its farthest point, but the switch is still activated. That way we have the pedal up a little bit farther so we can get more movement out of the pedal so it can push more fluid through the system. So after you have that backed out, what you want to do is loosen this locking nut on the adjustment rod for the master cylinder. This is all done under the dash. Move the locking nut. And what we're going to do is you're going to have one person under the car. Just imagine this tranny is installed, in the car, on the engine. We have the engine here, and we're looking at the slave cylinder and throw-out bearing release port from underneath the car. You have one person under the car, push the slave cylinder, and if you can push it in with your thumb, we know that that bleeder valve is working. It's pushing fluid into the reservoir, so we're okay at this point, but we just want to get more travel out of the unit. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this rod, this adjustment rod, clockwise a full turn at a time until we get to the point where they can no longer push the slave in. In other words, we're going to turn this in until the point it blocks off that bleeder valve. So we'll go ahead and turn it a full turn, have the person under the car push it. They can still push it, okay. We'll go another turn clockwise. Go to push it again. We're still okay. Go another turn clockwise. Push it again. Nope. Now it's not going all the way in. So what's happened is we've gone far enough in with this rod that this piston has moved out far enough where it's blocked off the bleeder valve in this reservoir. So now it's no longer self-adjusting. So we went too far. So what we want to do now is go back counterclockwise a half a turn. So we'll go half a turn. Everybody under the car, push the slave cylinder. Still can't push it. We'll go another half turn. Okay, now it compresses. So what we've done is we found a point where we've blocked off the bleeder valve. We've backed it up just enough where we have enough room so the valve can be open and do its self-adjusting thing. But we have the rod out far enough where we're going to have the most travel possible out of the system. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and tighten the locking nut down, pump the pedal a few times, then get back under the car and make sure you can depress and move the slave cylinder with your thumb again. You can push it with your thumb. You've just adjusted the system for the most travel that you can possibly get. Now, if your clutch, at this point your clutch shouldn't drag anymore. At 7,000, 7,500 RPM of a single disc unit, you should be okay. If it continues to drag, you may have a clutch issue, but at least now you know that your clutch pedal assembly, master cylinder, and slave cylinder are working toward peak efficiency, and you'll be okay. Now, of course, before you do all of this, you want to make sure the system is bled, you have clean fluid in there, no air bubbles. In some cases, a lot of people like to use a steel-braided flux line to go from the slave over to the hard line. All of that definitely helps. So, if you have any questions or comments, please email us at sales@jackstransmissions.com. Thank you.